I said we needed small steam. Well, I guess we're getting small steam. In this case, we've got a new switcher from Bachmann, a USRA 060 switcher in HO scale. But how new is new? Bachmann's made USRA 060s for more than 40 years, after all, with a major retooling in the mid-2000s. Is this just the old model repackaged? How much of the old model lives inside the new one? Let's find out together. In this review, I'll compare a mid-2000s revision of the original 1979 model alongside the brand new for 2024 version. The short version? No, this is not a microwave reheat, but it does have some compromises, which I'll get into later. First, though, let's talk a bit about the prototype. What is the USRA, and why is the 060 a good thing to model? USRA stands for the United States Railway Administration, a temporary nationalization of the nation's railroads that began in 1917. This was an emergency measure in response to the sudden increase in rail traffic during the First World War. In addition to taking operational control of the railroads, the USRA invested in new equipment, including nearly 2,000 steam locomotives and more than 100,000 freight cars. Almost all of this equipment was to designs crafted by the USRA engineers. USRA-designed locomotives, for example, shared many parts, from large items such as firebox grates to small components such as water sight glasses. This kind of standardization helped reduce construction time and maintenance costs. It also left a long legacy. Most USRA equipment was kept by the railroads once control was returned to private ownership in 1920, and many railroads made copies of these designs throughout the 20s and 30s. The 060 was the smallest of the USRA's standardized locomotive designs. It's derived from the Chicago Northwestern M2 class, the first built in 1916 by Alco. The USRA updated this design, changing a few notable mechanical and visual details, including the domes and cab. The Northwestern's M2s could handle a 3,000-ton freight train and transfer service. The USRA designs were considered marginally superior in performance to the M2s. 255 of the 060s were produced under the USRA, and assigned to 23 railroads. After the war, an overwhelming number of variants were purchased by the railroads across North America. This makes the USRA 060 one of the most common steam switchers. Surprisingly, despite this, no examples survive today, although 3 later variants do. By the way, if you want to learn more about the USRA and their locomotive designs, I highly suggest Uncle Sam's Trains by Eugene Huddleston, published by the Indiana University Press in 2002. It's out of print and a little expensive, but you might be able to request it through an interlibrary loan at your local public library. Perhaps we can encourage the Indiana University Press to rerun this book. Should I start a petition? So, how did Bachmann do with their model of this important prototype, and how does it differ from Bachmann's 2 earlier offerings? The original 1979 version had a rather terrible 3-pole pancake motor, like this one from an old Niagara I had lying around. In the mid-2000s, Bachmann fully upgraded the model with a new can motor and new drivetrain. This drastically improved performance, but did nothing to upgrade its dated appearance. Both the 1979 version and the 2000s update had dummy couplers on the front, mounted on a flimsy, highly breakable pilot. This meant the old models were not very useful as actual switchers, and the 2 older offerings found little use outside of children's train sets. This new version is a vast improvement, an almost entirely new model. Bachmann calls this the Roadname specific USRA 060 in their catalog. The review sample represents an engine assigned to the Union Pacific subsidiary, the Oregon Short Line. Number 4754 was part of a 4-unit order, numbers 4753 to 4757. The UP also had their own class, numbered 4600 through 4609. You can see photos of the prototype in this book, produced by the UP Historical Society. Let's start with the cab. It is a night-and-day improvement over Bachmann's older offerings. There's finer rivets, correct dimensions, and finally, some glass in the windows. Inside, though, there's a slight disappointment. One of the few castings that seems to derive from the older versions is the backhead, which retains vague patterns that look like ancient petroglyphs more than valves and controls. The omission of a firebox door is especially baffling. Coal-burning examples of the 060 were, after all, hand-fired. For example, here's the backhead on the Proto-2000 USRA 060 model, produced 22 years ago. Now, this may be an unfair comparison. The Proto model, which originally sold for $265, which with inflation, would be over $460 today, which is $100 more than Bachmann's MSRP. Still, even a cast-on one-piece backhead would have been fantastic. I should add, this isn't an impossible thing for a modeler to upgrade and fix. There's plenty of aftermarket detail parts available, and I intend to upgrade this example. Still, the lack of any backhead is surprising to see on any new model in 2024, especially considering the backheads on other new Bachmann steam engines. The boiler is completely updated, with sharp cast-on details. Here again, there's an unusual choice. The boiler casting is missing all but one boiler band. This is even stranger considering the older, cruder models had this detail. The washout plugs are also missing, while the cast-on whistle looks a little crude. While the water injection piping and other details also cast on, this is also much sharper, and I think this is more than enough for most modelers. The valve gear, meanwhile, is a significant improvement. New scale-sized rods help a lot. The power reverser, above the wheels, now actually connects to the valve gear. The addition of a couple of parts, along with a new cast metal frame that includes leaf spring detail, also helps. My only major worry is that the plastic slides for the crosshead will break over time. Almost every other steam locomotive Bachmann currently offers has metal crosshead guides, and I wonder why they decided to keep this plastic design from the older version. The new cylinders look sharp, as does the new Pilot. The Pilot now has a functional coupler, and nicely molded pulling pockets, and a metal coupler cut bar. Up front, we've got an excellent looking smoke box face and a new stack. The UP-style pile headlight centered on the smoke box looks excellent. This is accurate for the final look of the UP locomotives, most of which were retired in the early 1950s. The model comes with a tender, matching a main central example of a USRA 060. It is truly a fine-scale model, with scale-sized rivets and correct details. Where the older models used incorrect coil spring trucks, this new model rides on newly tooled, sharp-looking Andrews leaf spring trucks. My UP version has an oil bunker closely matching the prototype. In addition to the UP examples seen here, the first run includes Pennsylvania, Central New Jersey, Baltimore and Ohio, and New York Central models, each with different mounting solutions for the headlight and, of course, multiple types of coal bunkers. This said, this selection of road names is a little limited, and why not include other major owners such as the Chicago Northwestern, the Atlantic Coastline, or the Grand Trunk? And given the main central engine was one of the sources for the new model, why not offer one decorated for the Pine Tree route? There were 23 original owners of the USRA 060, plus numerous owners of later variants. Why focus so tightly on the Mid-Atlantic, plus only one Western railroad? Why not offer a painted and unlettered version as well? How well a model runs obviously determines how likely you'll be playing with it. It comes factory equipped with a Soundtrax Economy DCC and sound decoder. Economy's recordings are similar in quality to the Tsunami 2's. The stock whistle, bell, chuff, and rod clank is very pleasant. The dynamo screams to life when you turn on the headlight. You can even press function 4 to open and close the cylinder cocks, which is a very nice touch. Another nice touch is the headlight's bright when in motion and dims properly when running in reverse or stopped. Both forward and rear LED lights are bright and have a warm glow to them like their incandescent real-life counterparts. Overall, I was deeply impressed with how well it runs, and how nice it sounds out of the box. Unlike earlier versions, this model has electrical pickup on both the locomotive and the tender. These are connected electrically with a multi-pin plug mounted in the firebox, similar to steam engines in their former Spectrum line. I broke in the model for half an hour running light in both directions, which was fun and worthwhile. Then, for testing purposes, I hooked up my Southern Pacific dynamometer car right behind the engine. Next, I coupled up a variety of high-end 40-foot boxcars of similar quality from KD, Exactrail, and Trix. I tested it around the broad, super-elevated curves of my Alta California Railway. I kept adding car after car until the driver started to slip, and then removed one car at a time until it was able to walk away with a full train. I was able to pull 13 to 15 cars on my mostly level railroad, which is pretty good. The new Bachmann model compares favorably with the older, more expensive Proto 2000 version. Both were able to pull about the same amount of cars. Both weigh about the same as well, at about 6.8 ounces, as did the older 2000 era Bachmann model. Slow speed performance of the new 060 is excellent. The all-wheel pickup helps immensely, and even with factory CV settings, it was able to creep very slowly. Switching without damaging the cars was easy. The prototype topped out at 30 to 35 miles an hour. Like most models, the Bachmann model goes much faster, but that can be reprogrammed easily. My only complaint is that Bachmann did not include a capacitor on the decoder, as they did with their recent J3 Hudsons. Capacitors are a relatively cheap part for a manufacturer to buy in mass, and they're quickly becoming a standard, factory-installed feature on many HO locomotives. For models of small steam, which tend to be relatively lightweight, the smooth, reliable operation that a capacitor makes possible goes a long way to putting a smile on a customer's face. Overall, though, I'm genuinely impressed with how far Bachmann went. This could have been a microwave reheat of the older model. Instead, the company put significant effort into new tooling and meaningful improvements. Are there places for improvement? Sure, but the model performs excellently. It looks impressive out of the box, and for those who want to take it further, it's a solid base for detailing to a specific prototype. In fact, I plan to do just that. In a future video, I'll super detail this UP example into one for my Alta California Railway, and further upgrade its look and performance. For a long time, the best plastic model we had of the USRA 060 was the Proto 2000 model. However, it's been more than 2 decades since that model came out. Finding an example meant scouring eBay or going to swap meets religiously, hoping to see one and hoping it wasn't priced astronomically. And even then, that meant an old model. What condition was it in? How well has its plastic drive gear held up? Was it DC or DCC? Or DCC with sound? And was that sound still any good? It was like shopping for a used car on Craigslist. Thanks to Bachmann, we have a new, solid, great operating, great sounding model. And best of all, it comes with a warranty. So my take? This is a good addition to our fleets. By the way, if you're curious about the Proto 2000 060 and how it stacks up to this new Bachmann model, I've written a more detailed companion post over on Patreon. Link in the description. I hope you've enjoyed this in-depth review. Let me know in the comments. And if you have any further questions about this model, leave a comment below and I'll try to answer them. If you'd like to see more reviews or other model railroading content, now is a great time to subscribe. I've got a lot of fun videos coming up soon, and subscribing is free. And if you want to support my work further, consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. I include lots of additional content, in-depth articles, and other behind-the-scenes material over there. If you're already a subscriber, or if you support me on Patreon, thank you. Your support makes it possible for me to take the time to write reviews like this. Each like, each subscription, and each dollar makes a huge difference. And a special thanks to Bachmann, who sent this review sample, as well as one of the 2000s models so I could compare them side by side. This has been an Urban Era's review of the new Bachmann USRA 060. Take care, and I hope you enjoy running your own in the future.